The forest stretched endlessly, a boundless tangle of gnarled trees and thick fog that seemed almost alive. Every step on the mossy ground sent small puffs of mist curling around the players' feet. The only tools were a flickering lantern and an old compass that spun oddly whenever the forest seemed to shift. The air was heavy, filled with the smell of damp earth and something faintly metallic. Blood, or perhaps the memory of it. At first, it seemed calm. Deceptively serene. Leaves rustled in a gentle wind. A distant river gurgled. But soon, the forest's quiet revealed itself as deceptive. Shadows slithered unnaturally at the corner of vision, stretching and shrinking with impossible angles. The trees creaked as if whispering secrets in a language just beyond comprehension. With each step deeper, the air thickened, and the lantern's light seemed to dim, as though the darkness itself resisted exposure. By nightfall, the players stumbled upon an abandoned village, half swallowed by ivy and fog. Wooden huts leaned drunkenly, their windows dark and empty. In one, a table remained set, as if its owners had vanished mid-meal. Scraps of journals littered the floor, accounts of those who had entered the forest and never returned. Some pages were filled with fear, others with madness, their ink smeared as if the writer's hand had trembled violently. Suddenly, distant laughter echoed, soft at first, then rising into a manic crescendo. Figures appeared between the trees, pale, gaunt, almost transparent. They didn't attack, but followed, their eyes hollow, reflecting only the player's own fear. Every time the player turned, they seemed closer, yet when looked at directly, they vanished into the fog. The compass spun wildly now, pointing toward a distant glimmer deep within the forest, the only tangible marker in a place that refused orientation. Crossing a creek, the water was black, reflecting not the sky, but a twisted version of the forest. The stones across it were slick and uneven. One misstep could plunge the player into the unseen depths, where shadows writhed like living creatures. The whispers grew louder as the player advanced, forming words that seemed almost personal. You can't leave. You belong here. After hours of wandering, the forest began to change, reacting to the player's fear. Branches bent toward them, roots rose to trip, and glowing eyes appeared in every shadow. Yet there were moments of strange beauty. Fireflies forming constellations, streams reflecting impossible colors, trees that hummed like choral voices. It was a place alive, not just with danger, but with a consciousness that tested the mind. The player eventually found a clearing dominated by an ancient ruined temple. Its stone walls were covered in moss and strange runes that pulsed faintly with an inner light. Inside, the air was colder, heavier, and every step echoed unnaturally. On a pedestal lay a large tome, bound in weathered leather, pages flicking by themselves. Within, stories of previous travelers, cryptic warnings, and maps of the forest appeared and changed as the player read, as though the book responded to their presence. Night after night, the forest tested the player. Shadowy walls with glowing eyes hunted silently through the mist. Trees reshaped paths, leading in circles. Ghostly figures mimicked the player's every movement, whispering fears and memories aloud. There were illusions. Lakes that reflected another world, cliffs that seemed to drop into endless voids, and visions of the player trapped in twisted, impossible landscapes. Each night required not just survival, but understanding, deciphering clues, solving puzzles, and confronting personal fears. The deeper the player went, the forest's consciousness became clearer. It wasn't just a place. It was a living entity, feeding on fear, testing courage, and learning from every visitor. At one point, the player faced a massive, spectral bear, eyes burning with otherworldly fire. It didn't attack immediately. Instead, it watched, circling, waiting for hesitation. Only by moving with resolve and calm could the player pass, feeling the forest acknowledge their determination. On the 77th night, the fog thickened into a near-solid wall. The whispers formed complete sentences, urgent and demanding. Face yourself. Only then may you leave. Ahead, a glowing portal emerged, suspended between twisted trees. Shadows writhed around it like living tendrils. To enter, the player had to confront a mirror version of themselves. A shadow formed from every doubt, every fear, every regret. It mirrored movements perfectly, whispered insults, and attacked with impossible strength. Victory required more than skill. It required understanding one's own mind, embracing weakness as well as courage. Emerging from the portal, the player found themselves on the forest's edge at dawn. Mist still lingered, but sunlight filtered through, casting the world in warm gold. Behind, the forest remained alive, silent, and watching. Though free, the player carried it with them. The whispers, the shadows, the memory of eyes in the darkness. It was a place that never truly let anyone leave. And yet it also offered a gift. The courage to face fear. The knowledge that survival required both wit and will. The forest waits, always, for the next visitor. And somewhere, deep within, in the shadows of twisted trees and echoing mist, the forest remembers every soul who dared to walk its paths, whispering their names with the wind. The moon rose over the endless forest, casting long, trembling shadows. Night one began quietly, deceptively calm. My Roblox avatar stood at the edge of the forest, torch flickering in hand. The trees whispered, leaves brushing together like murmured warnings. I moved cautiously, discovering small puzzles embedded in the forest floor, guiding my path forward. Night two brought faint movements in the distance, eyes glinting just beyond the torchlight, but nothing fully emerged. By night three, I realized the forest itself was alive, subtly shifting. Paths I had walked the day before now led to dead ends. Night four introduced my first monster, a pale humanoid with elongated limbs, disappearing whenever I turned directly toward it, stalking silently from the shadows. Nights 5 through 10 escalated quickly. I found abandoned campsites, bones half buried in moss, journals from previous players warning of the horrors ahead. Each night's challenge grew. Rivers that flowed backward, trees that closed off paths, whispers guiding me into traps. Night 15, the first forest puzzle, demanded climbing a grotesque tree whose roots writhed like snakes, rearranging themselves as I tried to ascend. Night 20, the rain arrived, drumming on leaves like 1,000 fingers, obscuring vision and masking approaching creatures. By night 25, I was no longer certain who was alive or who was a spectre conjured by the forest. Night 30, the forest became a maze of glowing fungi, each emitting a soft, haunting hum. Shadows twisted into monstrous forms, some intelligent, some unpredictable. Night 35, I found my first ally, another player, but the forest tested our trust. Hallucinations split us, showing illusions of betrayal. Night 40, the forest itself seemed to hunt, sending falling trees, collapsing paths, and shifting terrains. Night 45 brought the eyes of the forest, hundreds of glowing orbs watching, tracking every movement, forcing me to crouch, hide, and move silently. Nights 50 to 55 marked the halfway point, where reality bent, paths looped endlessly, monsters that had died returned more powerful, and whispers became voices speaking directly to me. Mocking, warning, tempting. Night 60, I discovered the ruins of a previous survivor. Their message, carved into stone. The forest eats time, and it remembers every soul. Night 65, the creatures evolved, some blending with trees, some taking humanoid form, stalking silently. Night 70, the forest became a living nightmare. Trees moving like giants, rivers boiling, the sky black as ink. Night 75, I navigated through corridors of mirrors reflecting twisted versions of myself. Some screaming, some crying, some lifeless. Night 80, a colossal shadow descended, a storm of darkness, forcing me to solve riddles while evading attacks that warped the land itself. Night 85, every night became a test of wits and endurance. Traps growing deadlier, monsters smarter, illusions relentless. Night 90, only a few safe zones remained. Tiny clearings in the endless forest, each guarded by puzzle-locked gates and monstrous sentries. Night 95, the forest shifted violently, collapsing paths, creating vertical chasms, forcing desperate leaps. Night 98, I faced phantasms of my past choices. Friends lost, mistakes made, each haunting and attacking. Night 99, the final night. The forest transformed into a labyrinth of shadows, reflections, and whispers, all pointing to a single colossal figure cloaked in darkness, eyes like black holes. The battle lasted hours, a test of everything I had learned, everything I had survived. With strategy, courage, and desperation, I struck the final blow as dawn broke. The forest recoiling, reality snapping back. A single path opened. I stepped forward, exhausted, trembling. The screen faded to black, and words appeared. You survived, but the forest remembers. Outside my window, the wind rustled. I knew it wasn't just a game. The moon hung low over the twisted forest, spilling silver light through skeletal branches. You stepped into a clearing, feeling the crunch of dry leaves beneath your boots. A whisper curled around the trees, chilling your spine. Survive the night, if you can. A glowing path appeared before you, splitting into two directions. To the left, a faint, eerie cabin emitted a soft, flickering light. To the right, the forest grew darker and more foreboding. Shadows twisting like living things. The air was thick with tension, as if the forest itself watched your choice. A pair of glowing-eyed wolves circled silently, their gaze assessing whether you were prey or a worthy challenger. Scattered stones on the ground seemed to form a pattern. You knelt to study them, realizing that arranging them correctly might summon a protective charm to guard you against the night's unseen dangers. The deeper you ventured, the more alive the forest became. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches whispering secrets in a language you almost understood. Strange glyphs appeared carved into the rocks, glowing faintly in the moonlight. From a hollowed tree, a faint voice called your name, drawing you toward a hidden truth, or perhaps a trap. Shadows flickered between the trunks, testing your courage, as unseen eyes followed your every step. Beneath moss and twisted roots, a small lockbox lay hidden, its 3-symbol code waiting for you to discover the logic hidden in the forest carvings. A silvery river blocked your path, unnervingly still. When you gazed into its surface, your reflection moved differently than you did, a mocking double staring back. The river whispered visions of what lay ahead, promising treasure and peril in equal measure. Disturb the waters, and water wraiths would rise, their cries echoing across the forest. Carefully, you arranged glowing stones along the bank, redirecting the river's flow and revealing a hidden path forward. Jagged hills loomed ahead, winds howling through their jagged peaks. Distant cries reached you, shrill and unnatural, as though creatures hungering for something human had claimed this place. A cave yawned along the hillside, dark and inviting. Inside, runes etched above the entrance glowed faintly, holding a riddle that, if solved, would grant you safe passage. From above, harpy-like creatures screeched, their shadowy wings slicing through the night sky, forcing you to choose between stealth and confrontation. The ruins of an abandoned village appeared next. Huts collapsed, dust swirling through empty streets. The faint aroma of smoke lingered, but no living soul could be seen. You could explore the blackened tavern, where the air seemed thick with memories of the villagers, or search the crumbling wells and alleys, where hidden treasures and unseen dangers might lie. In the shadows, shapes moved. Figures caught between worlds, their intentions unreadable. Some watched, some whispered, some waited for you to make a mistake. As nights passed, the forest transformed. Paths you thought you knew twisted into impossible loops. Shadows deepened into monsters, with eyes like molten gold, claws that could tear through reality itself, and voices that echoed your deepest fears. Each choice you made altered what came next. Doors might appear where none existed. Rivers could vanish, and creatures could shift into forms you had never imagined. Puzzles became more intricate. Ancient mechanisms hidden beneath roots. Glyphs requiring precise touch. Sequences in leaves and stones that demanded sharp eyes and a sharp mind. The forest was alive with intention. A labyrinth that tested your courage, wit, and endurance for all 99 nights. Some nights you ran through mazes of thorns and mist, hunted by creatures that could bend shadows to their will. Some nights you hid in hollow trees, listening as the wind carried secrets, clues, and threats. At other times, strange allies emerged, wisps of light, cryptic guides, or fragments of spirits who had survived the forest before you. They offered riddles, tools, or cryptic warnings. Solve them and survival was possible. Fail and the forest claimed you. By the final nights, you could feel the forest's intent fully. It whispered, roared, and tried every trick it had. You faced the ultimate monster, a being that mirrored your choices, your fears, and your courage. Every charm, every puzzle, every narrow escape converged into a single night, where only sharp minds, quick reflexes, and brave hearts could survive. The forest tested everything you had learned. The lessons of the previous nights combining into a climactic, epic confrontation, where the line between reality and shadow blurred. When dawn finally broke after the 99th night, the first rays of sunlight cut through the mist, illuminating a path out of the forest. The shadows retreated, monsters vanished, and the forest seemed to sigh. You emerged transformed, carrying the weight of 99 nights, the memory of monsters, puzzles, whispers, and choices that had shaped your journey. The forest had survived you, but you had survived it. The sunlight warmed your face, but the forest's whispers did not vanish completely. Even as you stepped onto the open ground, the air trembled with lingering shadows, reminders that the forest did not forget. Somewhere deep within, a presence stirred, one that had observed your survival and now tested your resolve in a different way. A worn path appeared before you, lined with stones carved with ancient symbols. Each step you took resonated like a heartbeat, and the symbols glowed faintly in response. You realized that the forest was not merely a place, but a living puzzle, a consciousness that learned and adapted. To leave, you would need more than courage. You would need insight, patience, and the ability to perceive hidden truths. As you followed the path, the trees shifted around you. What had been a dense wall of branches now opened into a vast glade. In the center, A pool reflected the sky, but when you peered into it, you saw not your own reflection, but visions of other wanderers, lost in the forest, their faces twisted with fear or wonder. Some reached out as if seeking your help. Some warned you of dangers ahead, creatures that could slip between reality and dream, traps that could unravel time, riddles that could trap the mind forever. From the shadows, a creature emerged unlike any you had faced before. Its form was fluid, almost liquid, with eyes that mirrored your deepest fears. It spoke without words, its intentions clear. Will you leave, or will you become part of the forest? You felt the weight of your choices pressing against you. Each step, each thought, each hesitation shaped the challenge before you. The glade offered tools, a floating lantern that revealed hidden paths, stones that pulsed with protective energy, and a set of keys, each inscribed with runes that you did not yet understand. But every tool came with a cost. Using one might save you from a trap, but summon a new danger. Ignoring them might let peril pass unnoticed, but the path forward could close forever. As you ventured deeper, time itself seemed to stretch and twist. Nights and days blurred, and the forest grew stranger. Shadows whispered riddles that demanded memory, logic, and intuition to solve. Some riddles were simple, a sequence of stones, a pattern of leaves, a cryptic message carved into a hollow tree. Others were more sinister, forcing you to confront fears, regrets, and memories you had buried. Failure meant being lost, wandering the forest in a dreamlike loop until another chance presented itself, or perhaps forever. You encountered allies as well, wisps of light, echoing spirits of those who had survived before you. Even fragments of the forest itself, curious or testing your resolve. They guided, warned, or misled, making every decision a delicate balance between trust and caution. Some offered riddles, some gave magical objects, and some challenged you to face illusions more dangerous than the monsters themselves. By the time you reached the heart of this deeper, unseen part of the forest, the true test revealed itself. A colossal, ever-shifting entity. A guardian born of shadows, roots, and the memories of all who had wandered before. It did not attack blindly. It anticipated, adapted, and reflected your choices. Only by understanding the forest's patterns, trusting the fragments of guidance you had gathered, and facing your deepest fears could you hope to pass. The final confrontation was both physical and mental. The Guardian twisted the landscape, summoned shadow beasts, and unleashed riddles that bent reality itself. You dodged, solved, and fought, combining cunning, courage, and insight. When the first golden light of true dawn broke through the twisted canopy, the Guardian dissolved into mist, leaving behind a path illuminated by sunlight and the soft hum of life returning to the forest. As you stepped onto that path, the forest seemed to bow, acknowledging your triumph. But even as the shadows receded, you felt a new awareness. The forest was alive. It remembered, and it might call again. The journey had changed you, forged you into someone who could navigate impossible challenges, solve impossible riddles, and survive where others would fail. And somewhere, deep within the whispering trees, the forest waited, patient, for the next wanderer, brave or foolish enough to enter. Just when you thought the forest had yielded its secrets, the ground trembled beneath your feet. The path of sunlight ended abruptly at a wall of mist, so dense it swallowed sound and light. Beyond it, the air shimmered with unnatural colours, as if reality itself had bent. The forest was no longer just a forest. It was becoming a realm of shifting dimensions, a place where time, space, and memory were fluid. Stepping through the mist, You found yourself on a floating bridge of roots and vines, suspended over a void that stretched endlessly. Shadows moved along the edges of this chasm, some resembling creatures you had fought before, others entirely new, with forms that defied description. A voice echoed from the void, not spoken, but felt, vibrating through your mind. This is the forest's true heart. Only those who understand its essence may walk unbroken. The bridge was alive. Each step you took caused sections to twist, elongate, or vanish. Some paths led forward, others looped back or descended into endless darkness. You discovered floating crystals hovering in the air. Each contained fragments of memories, yours, the forest's, and those of countless wanderers. Touching one granted insight, showing you solutions to puzzles and dangers ahead, but each crystal also extracted a price, a fragment of your own certainty, leaving you unsure of what was real. Creatures of pure thought emerged from the void. They didn't attack physically. Instead, they projected visions and illusions, forcing you to confront alternate versions of yourself. The coward, the skeptic, the wanderer who had given up long ago. Every choice you made determined which version would gain strength. Defeat them mentally, and they dissipated, leaving behind keys to hidden pathways. Fail, and you could be trapped in a loop of your own fears. In the center of this strange, suspended world floated an enormous tree, whose roots entwined with the void itself. Its bark was etched with every riddle, puzzle, and trial you had faced, as if the forest kept record of every step of your journey. As you approached, the tree awakened, sending waves of energy through the bridge. You had to solve the final riddle, not with brute force, but by understanding the forest, the creatures, and yourself. The riddle was simple yet terrifying. A mirror suspended in the void reflected not your image, but every choice, every fear, and every failure you had encountered. To pass, you had to accept all parts of yourself and the forest's lessons, weaving them into a single truth. Only then did the bridge stabilize, the void receding, revealing a path toward light, true light, different from the false dawns of the forest before. Stepping onto this final path, you realized the forest had changed you irrevocably. Its challenges had honed your mind, sharpened your courage, and expanded your perception of reality. You could feel the echoes of the forest's power lingering in your thoughts. A constant reminder that while you had survived, the forest never truly ended. It only waited. For the next wanderer, for the next story, for the next impossible challenge. And as you left that strange dimension behind, stepping into a clearing where the sun shone unbroken for the first time, the wind carried a whisper that was both a promise and a warning. The forest remembers, the forest waits, and the forest is never done.